Hello and welcome back to Inside English Academy. So, আজিৰ ভিডিওটোত আমি sum up কৰিব try কৰিম আমাৰ ডিসকাশনটো যেটো আমি initiate কৰিছিলাম in our previous video, which was on a very important topic from English literature, and it was on Virginia Woolf. So, in this video, I shall try to give you the details of her career, and যদি আমাৰ questionটো আহে from exam point of view, discuss Virginia Woolf as a modernist novelist, discuss Virginia Woolf as a pioneer in the field of female writing, or discuss Virginia Woolf as a revolutionary writer. তেতিয়া আমি কেনেকৈ আনসাৰটো approach কৰিব লাগিব। And এটা বস্তু সদায় মনত ৰাখিব, লিটাৰেচাৰ যেতিয়া আমি আনসাৰ attempt কৰোঁ, we have to read and reread the questions, because থাকিব পাৰে question discuss, analyze or examine, and we have to approach the answer depending on what is asked. যদি থাকে examine this writer as a modernist novelist, তেতিয়া আমি focus কৰিব লাগিব and approach কৰিব লাগিব answerটো by focusing on modernist aspects যিখিনি আমি দেখা পাওঁ in the writings of that author, of that particular author. আৰু যদি থাকে from a feminist angle, তেতিয়া হলে feminist themes, feminist issues আৰু color আমি কেনেকৈ extract কৰিব পাৰোঁ from the writings of that author. আৰু সেইটো আমি কেনেকৈ গম পাম? We'll have to read the works of the author before. While we're preparing on a particular topic, while we're preparing for exams, we have to understand the characteristics of literature, the characteristics of a particular age which we are studying. Jodi ami eta age or background opera start kor from the transition period. Hey transition period to ki events hoisile, or hey transition period hua event bilake eventually কেনেকুৱা লিটাৰেৰী ফৰ্মছলৈ লিড কৰিলে, আৰু লিটাৰেচাৰত থিম ৱাইজ কেনেকৈ চেঞ্জ কৰিলে, এণ্ড সেইবোৰ থিমছ ৰাইটাৰ্ছ অফ দেট পাৰ্টিকুলাৰ এজ তেওঁলোকে কেনেকৈ সেইবোৰ থিমছ এক্সপ্ল'ৰ কৰিলে, এণ্ড দে ট্ৰাই টু এক্সপেৰিমেণ্ট উইথ দ'জ থিমছ এণ্ড ব্ৰিং এবাউট ছাম ইনোভেশ্যনছ ইন দেয়াৰ ফৰ্ম এণ্ড কণ্টেণ্ট. চ' ইফ উই কানেক্ট the societal influences, the transitional period, the themes which were recurrent, and the forms which were being explored by the authors of that era, তেতিয়া আমি এটা ভাল answer present কৰিব পাৰিম. Because if we are asked to examine the works of a particular author, we cannot just stick to the author without being clear about the characteristics of that era, and the examiner will look for that concept in the candidate. Jodi amar he concept ami dekhabo paru in very short sentences at the introduction hisabe, jodi ami telukok etu janabo paru that we are much aware of the transitions, we are aware of the societal conditions, and what led or what were the influences behind the author's characteristic or behind the author's way of writing. তেতিয়া আমি এটা ভাল answer present কৰিব পাৰিম. For example, in this context, in the context of Virginia Woolf, যদি আমাক সোধে discuss Virginia Woolf as a modernist writer, তেতিয়া আমি কি বুলি approach কৰিব লাগিব answerটো? We'll have to focus on modern society. We'll have to focus on what was more important and what were the changes to literary context or pra basi evident asile. It was a change, societal changes to recurrent hoy, societal changes to ami agor pra dekhi aisu, but jitu notun change ahisil that was in the human psyche, aru he psychological change to capture korisile these writers. So Virginia Woolf context ami psychological change and her attempt to depict those changes and the complications of the human mind সেইখিনি আমি বহুত clearly arrest কৰি পেলাই লিখিব লাগিব while we are presenting an answer. And how do we do that? We'll have to go back to her works. We'll have to try to compare her works, if possible, if we have the time and we have the scope, the marks. যদি আমাৰ 10 মাৰ্কছৰ আহিছে 20 মাৰ্কছৰ আহিছে তেতিয়া আমি পাৰিম এইটো লিখিবলৈ যদি আমাক বিচাৰিছে that we have to discuss this author as a modernist writer or as a feminist writer. Modernist writer বুলি ক'লে we have to explore her techniques, we have to explore the themes that she was dealing with, and we have to explore her intentions as well. Why she was dealing with those themes, and what were the influences of the modern society and the changes that came about in the modern society which reflected in her writing. Or jodi we have to approach this author as a feminist writer, we have to focus more on the aspects which were confined to the women point of view, feminist point of view, and what actually she wanted to depict from that feminist point of view. Did she try to preach something? Did she try to change something? Or did she just try to urge something to her peers, to her female peers? And this we will find out in this video. She never tried to preach anything. She never tried to change anything as such in the society. She never called for equal rights for women. She never stood as a revolutionary feminist who wanted to fight the male counterparts and to fight the gender gap and bring about social equality in the society. Rather, her writings were mostly dedicated to the females of the society, and she wanted them to realize certain things which she thought they needed to realize. And the first thing she wanted to make sure and stress to her female counterparts was that they were not aware of the traditional conventions and the gifts which they could actually accept as a legacy from their predecessors, the women predecessors, although they were very few, although they were not as recognized and successful as their male counterparts, yet they had made substantial mark in the field of literature. And she wanted to urge her female counterparts who had that creative bent of mind, who wanted to become successful authors or artists, to take and look up to their predecessors as an example and create beautiful literature, powerful literature for their future generation. And she wanted to boost the confidence of the female counterparts to be able to acknowledge the fact that society has been denying their rights, society has been denying the equality in the field of literature which needed to be given to the women. Society has been denying the acknowledgement and the recognition, the financial sustenance to the women which were provided to the men. And she wanted to make one thing very clear. This point she wanted to emphasize upon is that financial independence. She wanted to tell her peers that financial independence was of utmost importance if a woman wanted to emerge successful in her creative arena. If she wanted to do something out of her creativity, out of her creative urge, first of all, she needed to suffice. She needed to be enough for herself financially, to feed herself, to be mentally and physically fit, and only then she will be able to give vent to her creative urge, because she understood, she was practical in this thing, and she understood that without being physically and mentally fit, a woman could not express herself in the best possible way. So Virginia Woolf etu buzi paisile that jetialeke maiki manuhe teolukor nizor gifts pur recognize nokoribo and also etu gom napabo, etu accept nokoribo that society teolukok etialeke deny kori ahise certain privileges, jikhini privileges dia hoisil to their male counterparts. Jetialeke women nije etu recognize kori realize kori pelai nizor situation to change koribo try no koribo, and by situation all she wanted was in the field of education, in the field of academics and career, literary pursuit, jar literary bent of mind ase, jar creative urge ase, hebilak women actually ki koratu necessary hoy if they wanted to leave a legacy of creative works, if they wanted to leave a legacy of literature for their daughters. And for that, she urged them to look up to and recognize, accept, and acknowledge the legacy which was left for them by their predecessors. Society dianasil teoluko iman scope janeke male counterparts khanik disile, but they stole it. And in the similar way, these ladies of this generation too had to steal education from the libraries which were at their homes, because most of them were from well-to-do and affluent families. Teolukor siblings asile, our brothers bilakok pathai disile to get higher education in the best universities across the world, but the ladies of the household were denied from higher education. Teolukok okol himankhini education disile jikhini bhaba hoisil that it was necessary for them to be complete women. So at a notion asile that they had to be complete as a woman so that they can be good wives for their husbands, they can be the pride of their homes, of their houses, but for themselves they needed much more, and they needed to come out of their confinements, come out of these boundaries which were set by the society for them. And this Virginia Woolf understood, and she wanted to share this with her female peers in the society. And even when she was in journalism, before she became a novelist and author, she was in the field of journalism, and even there she wanted to utilize her skills. She wanted to use the field of journalism to boost the confidence of those women who were reading within the walls of their houses and who wanted to do something about their creative urges. She wanted to create a society, and in fact she made an imaginary society for her own and her female counterparts, in which they would be sharing their creative experiences and they would be voicing out their feelings and whatever they had, their experiences, through the medium of their writings. And this is how Virginia Woolf actually wanted to utilize her skills in writing and as an author, as an essayist, to give voice to the psyche of man, of modern man. And mostly she wanted to give voice to the inner workings and inner minds of women in the society, in the early 20th society. And there's a very powerful statement that she has made, and she says, lock up your libraries if you like, but there is no gate, no lock, no bolt that you can set upon the freedom of my mind. And this statement that she had made, this clearly sums up the temperament, the mindset, and the willpower of this author, which makes her the Virginia Woolf that we read her today. And the dedication, the determination that she had to raise voice for the sake of women writers, for the sake of women education, and for the sake of the creativity, the creative urge of women in the early 20th century. This makes her a revolutionary writer and a pioneer in the field of feminist writing.